Alrighty, welcome back to the Cash Flow Project. Today we have the opportunity to talk with runner, designer, artist, and the owner of Vander Jacket, Sarah Vander Neut. Sarah, thank you so much for taking so much time out of your day and joining us. Before we begin, just tell us a little bit about yourself, just a brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks so much, Landon. My name's Sarah, and I own Vander Jacket. I've owned it for 13 years, although has been previously known as SVN Jackets, which was my just my initials. I realized I hated saying that out loud. It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
I felt like I sound stupid. So I changed that name in 2017, but my business is 13 years old. What I do is manufacturing as well as like direct to consumer retail. So there's two sides to my business. I create running apparel for men and women, and we use fabric that is, majority of the fabric is locally sourced in Denver. And then also dead stock fabric, which we do source from LA. And I can explain what dead stock is more specifically because people are growing in their awareness of that. I do small batches of apparel, and I also do one of a kinds. So that's kind of what's different about my process. There's a small team in Denver that makes my apparel, and I realized last month at the Chicago Marathon Expo, where my company was selling apparel, we were only ones at the expo selling USA made running apparel.
Wow.
Nike, Adidas, Puma, North Face, Under Armour, all these companies were there. Nike was the headlining sponsor. We were the only one USA made. If you don't count Darn Tough Socks of Vermont, I believe they were also being sold there. That is a whole nother conversation, but they may be the last standing like American-made sock company that caters to runners. So within our market, we do have some special qualities that make Vander Jacket really different.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we've survived for 13 years, among with other reasons. I'm excited to tell you about that. But I started the company 13 years ago when I was pregnant, because I'm a runner. I'm not a fast runner. I'm a faithful runner. I'm going to run today. It may not be very good, but I'm going to be out there. And I was pregnant over the winter time. I needed some jackets. Nothing fit. I didn't want to spend the money. My husband and I were definitely living on a tight income. And my upbringing and my passion is clothing design, and I wasn't doing it at the time, but I made myself a few running jackets. And in the spring, after I had my baby, I wasn't pregnant anymore. I had those used running jackets that I had kind of slightly used then, and I was selling them at a flea market in Denver, and they sold like right away.
Wow.
And two women who weren't pregnant, and I was like, hey, these are used. Hey, these are maternity.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, like, these are cool. I'm getting this. And then the rest of the day, other women were coming to the booth asking, do you have any more of those? I had like 4 they sold. And then I had a lot more women coming and asking. And so the light bulb just came on that, hey, this is something different that I could do. I happened to be at a time in my life where I wasn't sure what I was going to do. We can get into my background, but I just kind of, had the encouragement of my husband, and he was like, hey, you're good at this. Why don't you just try designing clothes for a little bit? So that's the roots of the company.
Yeah.
You back up further to when I was a child, and I was born in Eugene, Oregon. I grew up in Oregon. My dad ran for Nike. And so it was during the 1980s. And it was a complicated time for athletes because they couldn't take money. You couldn't be a professional athlete, but you could run for the brand. You could run for Nike. So what Nike would do for my dad is they would take care of all the other things in his life to free him up so he could train hard, So they paid for his graduate school, which happened to be at Dallas Theological Seminary. He was studying to be a pastor. Nike paid for that, which is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And they helped him find a job as a youth pastor. They, would pay to, they would help him with his car or whatever. They would do whatever they could to free up the athlete, except pay them. And so my dad ran for Nike, and then after he ran for Nike professionally, they still sent him apparel. And I remember him getting it and running like 100 miles in it for like 1 week. He was a distance runner, so he'd run 100 miles. It'd take him a week, and then he review the garment, put it in a shoebox, and send it back to them. And so I was around that product testing end of things. Meanwhile, my mom taught me how to sew, and I love fashion design. I loved old movies, loved clothes. And I kind of grew up in a not rural, but like very small town setting. And so like there wasn't a lot of fashion happening. And so I think that athletic fashion is what I was exposed to. And so it comes more naturally to me. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When starting out, how did you manage the business side of things? I guess you can kind of talk about your college journey with this one a little bit. How did you, you didn't have a business degree, I don't believe. How did you manage the whole process of running a business, making these products, marketing these products?
Yeah, I want to say from the outset that I think a business degree is extremely helpful. I would encourage people to get a business degree. And that's for a number of reasons. But it is a challenge to learn on the fly. Even if you have a business degree, you will be challenged if you start a small business. When I started out, it was really small. Like I bought a sewing machine from the Goodwill. I thought it was overpriced, so my mom pitched in half. It was very like bare bones. I think I made $400 the first year.
Wow.
It was very small, slow work. I have to say, I was raising my child, and one value that my family had, my husband and I had, is like, well, we want me to be able to stay at home with her. So even though I wasn't making a lot of money, we felt like there was a lot of value in what I was doing with my time. And I think I have to say that one thing that was really helpful was my husband. He is a teacher. He had a very stable job. He's actually been at the same school for 20 years. So he's like, and he's packed the same lunch for 20 years. Like he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
That has been really helpful. And also the fact that for him, he didn't need to see me making a lot of money. He was a very patient person. It didn't occur to him to like really ask about that. And so as I was growing the business from scratch, I didn't have a lot of capital, but I also didn't have the pressure to make money, and that helped. I'm naturally really scrappy, and so that actually what got me into the green processes that are in place in my business today. Because when I started out, it was just like I would sell a jacket, and then I would just use the money to like thrift store shop and estate sale shop for unused vintage fabric in Denver. And I would get that and I would make more, and I would shop on Saturdays at the thrift store. So it'd be half off. Like it was all the little cutting corners I could.
Yeah.
I also, like when we started doing a couple years in, instead of flea markets, I realized I should do some race expos. Now, the difference between a flea market and a race expo is about $500. So race expos, they are expensive. But I had more of a concentration of my target market right there in a shorter amount of hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So some people would be like, oh, it's shorter hours. That's not as good. Like you paid $200 to do this flea market for all day, and you paid $500, $700 to do this race expo, and it's 4 hours. And it's like, yeah, but everyone has to go. They have to pick up their packet. They have to be there, and then they have to leave. And as a young mom, I was like, I'm busy. Like, I'm busy. Let's do the race expo. Let's get my target market in a short amount of time and pack up and go, because we have nap time. We have all these things. So that's kind of like how I process like where to be. I read a book, a business book called Essentialism, which was about marketing to a very specific group of people. And it would even get into like, who is your target market? Give that person a name. What does that person drink? What does that person eat? Where do they buy groceries? How do they shop? And because I don't have a business degree, I just absorbed that, and I did make up in my mind from what I could see at flea markets and races who was buying the jackets. I could figure out like, who is that person? And for me, it ended up being a woman who was a working professional between 20 and 40, who made at least $100,000 a year, who did yoga as well as running, who may or may not be married. And then we appeal to other people in that, but that's where the majority of my buyers were. And so this was all happening at the start of Instagram too. And so when I was marketing, I loved Instagram. It was free. So that was really helpful. To answer your question, sorry, I'm like all over.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm loving it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
To answer your question, I think it was a happy time, a happy decade to start a business, because I'm working in my basement with my baby sleeping. And part of the reason why my business succeeded was because I had a really good sleeping baby, and I am very type A. So I would be making a lot of things. Then Instagram comes along, it's free. And in the early days, it's democratic. There's no paying for, algorithm placement or anything like that. It's just timelines. It's all timelines. So if Nike, posts something, that's going to be in your timeline. If they are the most recent. But if I'm the most recent, that's going to be in your timeline.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it was really a level playing field. That was very helpful. It was also very helpful that I could do these markets and the square technology with the little cube down here.
Oh, yeah.
That happened at the same time. So suddenly it didn't have to be cash, and it wasn't so inconvenient. And this was a game changer, because if you think about a running expo, a lot of people, they don't have cash. They're sweaty. They just finished their race, but they want to buy it. So if you make it easy for them to buy something, they'll buy it,
Right,
because also they also just accomplished something great in their life, and they want to commemorate that. And especially if it's something that they can justify in their head, like, I'm going to use this jacket. And really the only barrier between them buying my jacket and not buying the jacket was like the cash. Do they have enough cash? Well, the Square app made it possible. So cash is not a thing. If the person just brought a card, like, no problem. So, or PayPal, or just like, hey, give me your details, PayPal. So because of Instagram, Square, PayPal, making it possible to take money from people, and for me to market for free. And I did have a lot of downtime where I could be taking photos and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where the my art degree came in handy. I have an art degree. I don't have a business degree, but I had to read. I had to read up on the marketing piece. So
yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. So inspirational just to hear how you were like balancing out like doing this business, of course, with the support of your husband, and then being a mom as well. Do you have any advice for like anybody listening about like, maybe they're a mom or going to be a mom and wanting to accomplish starting a business? Any advice on that side?
Yeah, I think, you know what, the first thing that comes to mind is well, you can use your baby as an excuse. The thing about it is, like, a small business owner, they're putting in so many hours of work, so many hours of work. And it if you have a kid, you're putting in so many hours of work, so many hours of work. But the nice thing about a baby is you can kind of tote them around to where you need to be. And you're also up late at night. And sometimes you're up late at night with somebody who's wide awake, but they don't really need your brain. They just need your presence and your arms. Like if your brain is on and you have to be up anyway, that's an opportunity, And so I think for any young parent, a man or a woman, if you're a young parent and you're starting a business, I think that can be happily married to being a parent. And I think actually it is freeing, because I think it would have been hard to put my child in daycare and be away doing the things.
Right.
But all my best friends do it all the time. But if you have the baby with you and you're working, well, that feels really good, because I don't know, it feels good because you're feeling connected to important things at the same time. It definitely is helpful to have a low maintenance baby who will sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least in my case, because I was literally making things with my hands. So there's that. But I can think of a lot of small businesses that would work really well with a kid. And I would just encourage people to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question. When you first started Vander Jacket, obviously you were saying you made like 400 in that first year. What was the drive to do what you were doing? Obviously you have that artistic ability, but was your hope to like bring quality products to people? Was it to lighten like people's day? Like what was like your goal, your mission behind what you were doing, if you weren't maybe concerned about just bringing in as much money as possible?
Right. That's a great question. And I think really it comes down to, Landon, that I was an art major with a painting emphasis. So like I spent college painting and drawing. And that is wonderful, but what felt more wonderful to me is when somebody bought the things that I created and they used them during the healthiest hour of their day. Like they were inside of what I made. And I think for me, that was just like a great joy to think somebody's out there doing what's healthiest for them in something I made. It happened to be this, when I started the company, happened to be a time when everyone was wearing a puffy Columbia like a Columbia puffer that they got from REI, and they came in like 3 colors, and it was like black, forest green, navy, and then if you were really bougie, like maybe purple, if you like went to New York to get your Columbia puffer. But like that's what everyone was wearing, and it just felt like I know people are out there who would wear different things in Colorado if they had the option of something more more bright, and I know that it would bring them a lot of joy to just wear it and shoot. It's like you said, Landon, 12 degrees is pretty hard to run in, and you need some extra motivation. Sometimes that comes down to some clothing.
Look good, feel good.
Yes,
Exactly.
look good, feel good.
Yeah.
And it's real. And I think a lot of people, they discount the hours they spend working out. It's like, oh, but that's not my real life. And then I put my real clothes on. And I think in reality, like, no, that's part of your real life. In fact, maybe it's the best part of your real life. And you should run in some clothes you like. And I think the artist in me, it was just kind of like, I can do paintings and maybe someone could buy one or not. But everyone needs a jacket. And if they have a jacket that brings them a lot of joy, that brings me joy. So let's it was kind of curiosity too. It was like, let's just see if I can make things that people want.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'll
Yeah.
let Miranda take the next one, but I have to ask,
Yeah.
the painting behind you, did you paint that?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Is
I had to
that,
ask.
is that inspired from like Colorado mountains?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my in-laws, they had a cabin that they built and they were living in the San Luis Valley by Alamosa. And this was the view. This is like
Wow.
Dog Mountain. So anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I was gonna ask now, since we're in that topic of like building, like designing and yeah, just making that jacket. So what can you explain to us? What does that process look like?
Yeah. I think I wish it was really romantic and it was like, oh, I sit down and sketch and then I create some prototypes. But really what it is if you're going to grow as a business, it's a dance, right? The difference between an art and a craft is a craft has a recipe and an art doesn't. And I knew for me, when I was starting to sell more, starting to see my jackets sell at markets really consistently, and when I saw people come who wanted a jacket I made, and I didn't have their size, just the disappointment really got to me. Like, so I'm getting to answer your question, I promise.
You're good.
Okay, so like seeing people's disappointment because they weren't the size of the jackets I had really bothered me. But I started out just making only jackets in my size because in my head I was like, if I don't sell these, shoot, I gotta wear them. Like,
Right.
these can't go to waste,
Yeah.
right? So after like a year, it was like, yeah, I think you need to make like a range of sizes. And if I make a range of sizes, there has to be a logical grading process from one size to the next so that people can be logical if they're like wanting to buy a gift for their wife who they know is a large. And so that forced me to make my standard Vander Jacket patterns. And what I have now is I have 6 sizes and in women's and 4 sizes in men. But I make a double X now. I make a double X men's jacket now occasionally. So I guess I'm expanding to 5 sizes in men's. And I have those base patterns and they haven't changed for 12 years.
Oh wow.
And for me it's I just start cutting fabric and putting colors together. And then what I do is I lay over on top of the base patterns trims for like reflective trims, pockets, different places, different colors of zippers, different textures of fabrics. And so that's where you see the insane variety that we have. If you go to our website, that's where you're seeing the variety. But the recipe is there. Like, it's the same standard jacket. And that was good because when I got to a place where I could hand over my designs to a team to make the jackets in downtown Denver, they had something to scan. They had my designs to scan.
Right.
It was something that could be manufactured. And really, like, that's the difference between an art and a craft. And I'm a Vander Jacket. I want them to look like art pieces, but they are a craft. I mean, we have a recipe, we have a formula, and if we didn't, we wouldn't have as many people running in our gear. And so it's just a decision you have to make.
Yeah.
If you go smaller and you say, no, we're going to be artists and everyone, it's not formulaic and there's true inspiration behind every one, and we're cutting out a different design every time, then the price goes way up. Then it's Gucci, then it's Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Like, and the watered down Louis Vuitton, but the Louis Vuitton for for I don't know, Elon Musk's latest.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a decision you have to make. And I've actually revisited that decision a few times because we are producing a lot of apparel, but not a lot by other companies' standards. So because I still make locally, I have a partnership with a factory downtown, and they have a team of sewers, like garment workers, construction workers.
Uh-huh.
I would say garment construction workers. Seamstress sounds too antiquated. So they take my designs and they sew them. But they're American made, and they get, like, the president of the company, she gets 30 emails a day. Can you make my thing? And for whatever reason, like, it's just, we're so lucky, but they like us, and
Yeah.
so they make our thing. And we're at a point now where they're making something for us at all times, whether it be men's jackets, women's jackets, and we just started shorts and pants, and Landon knows about that.
Yes.
This is girl who designed our shorts that are
cool.
going to come out this spring. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So it's cool. But if I wanted to produce more and make more money, like, we would have to let go of that value of Denver made.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to. So then the question is, well, maybe we don't get bigger. Maybe we charge more and we produce the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be an artist's move. That's what an artist does. Like, a known artist, after years of experience, they're not making more paintings. They're not making more drawings necessarily. They're just increasing the price.
Yeah.
So the business model, but the other business model is don't increase the price, increase production. And Vander Jacket is kind of at the crossroads where it's like, well, what's it going to be?
Yeah.
And I haven't decided. And so we're just testing water. We're just doing what I do. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit, like, staying in Denver, forming that partnership with that, like, clothing, garment construction, and them able to do that with you. Obviously, well, I guess not obviously. I know this, but you've developed a partnership with Melanzana in Leadville. You have worked with the 5280 Distance Project, the Good Boys Running Club, all these different what am I trying to say? Like, companies around where you are at. How important do you think those partnerships have been for just brand awareness and growing your brand?
Yeah, I think that they've been really important. I will answer that question. I do want to say, when I say I haven't decided, I've decided we're never going to make clothes outside of Denver.
Yeah.
But there are other ways to make more clothes. So I'm not decided about that.
Yeah.
To answer your question about the partnerships, I think they've been huge. The thing about, like I told you about this book, Essentialism, where you find your target person market. And the thing is that, and you guys probably already know this, but when it comes to marketing, it's like, the myth is that, oh, I'm selling this thing and it's for everybody. But it's not a helpful way to market.
Yeah.
Because you need to be really focused. And so I've been really local. I've been really local focused. And it's been 13 years of being really focused on local. And it's cheaper to stay in town. Like, it's cheaper to do race expos in town and not travel.
Yeah.
It's a lot less complicated, less gas, less lodging, all of that. And by now we've expanded to where, like, we will do things around the state. And we have gone to the Chicago Marathon twice. It's been huge for us. We've had a record, record sales at that expo 2 years in a row. And that is not local. But the thing is that we've been focused on the Denver area for so long. And so those partnerships are really important. I think that because I stayed so local and focused on trying to reach just runners and not runners and cyclists, but just runners in Denver, even though my jackets appeal to cyclists,
Right.
cyclists who buy them, it has made the name known among runners. And then eventually, once all the runners in this local area have heard of Vander Jacket, then it spills outside of that group, of that bubble, just like organically.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the thing is that like all those people, like runners in Denver, they follow each other, you know, and they see pictures from the race and they see the race photos, and then they see them, they get their race photos back from a 5K maybe, and there's 8 other people around them, because, you know, in a race photo it's you and you're like, yeah, and then there's like 8 other people back here and it's a really bad picture of them. And you know, if the logo is recognizable, like our logo, Vander Jacket, people just see that again and again. They see it in their own race photos coming back, other people wearing it. They see it in the running stores. So Runner's Roost has carried our garments from time to time. They had a buyer that was crazy about us, and they always brought us in. They changed buyers, and this new buyer doesn't care. Like, she doesn't care about us, and that's fine, because we have put our eggs in multiple baskets. Or no, I don't know what the analogy is.
Yeah,
we've
yeah
diversified.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I can definitely speak to that, because I know I did the bare bones 8K this summer, and I went down with my girlfriend and her dad. They had Vander Jackets apparel. Everyone else that felt like at that race had Vander Jacket apparel, and I just had my flimsy white Nike singlet. And I did feel that. I was like, man, I need a Vander Jacket, because all these people have it. So if you're starting at those pop-ups, at those events, it can expand pretty quick, because, yeah, someone's running a whole marathon. If it's the Colfax Marathon, they pass like a bunch of people, and everyone that they pass is like, ooh, that's a sweet jacket. I need that jacket. So that can just spread super quickly. I'll let Miranda take the next like big question, but something I also want to tap into as well, similar with that partnership aspect, but user-generated content. I see a lot of the things you do on Instagram, and I love it, because you take all these, like, you take pictures of people running in your jackets, and you do all these things where you're like, oh, a Vander spotting, and there's like some Vander spotting out of the country. And I think that's a really good way to do that as well, to say, hey, like, I'm in Denver, but clearly you've made a name for yourself, because you really are everywhere. So yeah, I guess that's less of a question, more of a comment of just, I think it's really cool how you use that content.
I was going to ask you, have you ever thought about opening up a storefront, or is the plan to continue with online selling and doing pop-up events?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I think, you know, pop-up events are expensive, and they physically take a lot of energy. So like now that is 2024, like, to give you an idea, a 2-day pop-up market in Denver where you're joining, you know, 150 other vendors, like in the Rhino District, or like the Firefly Market or the Horseshoe Market, where it brings together all these artisans. That's like $425.
Oh.
For me, it's like not that big of a deal, because that's 2 jackets.
Yeah.
So, and also, if I sell a garment to someone in person, there's a lot less chance that that jacket's coming back to me, that they're gonna return it.
Yeah.
And so, since our other side of the business is e-commerce, you know, when people buy online, you can list every measurement on every jacket, and you're still going to have a lot of returns. That's a battle. And so there's a part of me that's like, you know, I love the in-person, because returns are not as much of a thing. And and since I'm the CEO who's also the salesperson, I hear the feedback straight out of a person's mouth immediately.
That's
like
true.
I'm very in touch. And it's like when somebody tries on a jacket and they say something candidly, like that is noted,
Yeah.
you know. And, I'm like a sponge with that. So the question is like, what about a store? You know what? The pandemic really opened up opportunities because a lot of businesses left stores or like left their retail space,
Yeah.
and there were empty retail spaces. And so we did pop-ups like Lululemon does sometimes, or Nike, or Athleta,
Mm.
where they come in just for a set amount of time, set up everything. They have their temporary store, and then when the season's over, or maybe it's just a weekend, then they're out of there. That is brilliant because you just have to, get some energy for that opening, which is when every store has a lot of energy when you open, and then you're not bound by a retail space contract.
Right.
Yeah. And so like during the pandemic, I would call an empty space and be like, can I pop up here for a week? And honestly, I would get a response back from realtors or like management of retail spaces, and they'd be like, sure, but we have no idea what to charge. And I would be like, well, how about $800?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, and
Yeah.
like they just didn't even have a box for that. And it was great. So if I were locked into a retail space, I mean, the thing is, as you know, location is huge. And I'm thinking to myself, where in Denver is the foot traffic so strong consistently year round where I would want to be? And I'm not sure there's a place in
Right.
Denver. I mean, I go to LA and it's like there are places, on Venice Beach, there are places in LA where I would like to have a permanent store, and I'm afraid to even ask what they're paying.
Yeah.
And I went to a Nike pop-up, which was a 2-day store in New York. So I mean, if Nike thinks popping up is a good idea, why wouldn't I keep doing it?
Right.
Yeah, the downside is like, yeah, it's really physical.
Yeah.
When I've done a pop-up for like a week, because we're so small, it's me, and then I have a full-time employee, and then we contract other people. But because I'm small and I do the majority of the sales, I'm selling and we're doing great and we're making a lot of money. And then I feel like we don't have anything and I have to go make. Like, I can't keep this up. I can't do this for them. I have to go make the product and design the product. So, like, obviously, like, there are solutions to this, but I don't have any debt. I haven't brought in investors.
Yeah.
So it's obvious. What's the solution to this? The solution is to attract a talented sales force so they can be selling while I'm making, and I'm not there.
Yeah.
Right.
But that will take investors, because at this point, because it's been slow growth, we are debt free, and I make decisions by the seat of my pants because I'm not beholden to investors. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we just haven't gone that route yet.
For sure. Yeah. You definitely, mentioning how lucrative those pop-ups can be, and it just allows for more flexibility for your business. I know the first time I ever saw you at a pop-up was at the Colfax Marathon, and it was genius because they had, people sign up and pack, get your rice packets, and then you exit that way. And what is that way? 150 local businesses. How do you differentiate yourself there? Because as I was walking through, our mission was to get to you, because that's really the reason we were there. But
I hope that's everyone's mission.
Yeah. But even then, there were still booths that I was like, ooh, that looks kind of cool. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. How do you differentiate yourself? And I know you're like, I've been to a few of your pop-ups, and there's similar businesses at every single one. So how do you continue to keep? Yeah, I guess I've asked the question now 3 times in different ways. How do you differentiate yourself with these pop-ups?
Yeah, I used to be more worried, and then I realized, no, we look that weird. Like, we just look that weird. The clothes we're making, the fabrics we're using, the design decisions, because I don't have anyone over me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have to run my design by someone who will say, yeah, but that's not going to appeal to your average dude. I don't have to do that. And so we have a different aesthetic. So we look different. I literally have people come up to me at a pop-up and say, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Just because they're like, it looks so different. And people sometimes say, so these are running clothes. And honestly, that underlines what my biggest insecurity has been from the beginning, which is prove that they're for running. Like, make sure people know that these are running clothes.
Yeah.
Because they do look so different. They look more like a fashion piece. And so I've always been very like, that's my kryptonite. I don't want people to think we're fashion. I want people to think we are for serious runners, which is also why the investment in local runners is important.
Yeah.
Even if they're not like top of the line runners. This is what's so tricky is Nike will contract runners. Nike and other big running companies, they'll put local runners on contract like the instant they are, they seem like they're winning races, local races. And other companies will contract semi-elite runners. And so a small company like mine can't reach those people.
Right.
So so that's been hard to get like legitimate runners to run in my stuff. And I've been lucky in that way. Like you said, at the Bare Bones, there's a lot of like fast kids running at these races, and it's valuable to have them run in Vander Jacket because we need to establish ourselves as like, we're not just fashion, we're running clothes. And so I think, oh gosh, to answer your question, how do we stand out? I think we just look that different. We look handmade. Yeah. I think there have been times where, people will say like, oh, so you sew all these yourself. And it's kind of like they're patting me on the head, like, oh, that's nice, good for you.
Yeah.
And they'll say like, people will say, good luck with that. And it's like, you know what? That's okay.
We don't need you.
Well, it's okay. It's like, it's funny because anybody who's tried sewing, if they see like the amount of clothes we have, they know I'm not making it all myself. Like, they know this has taken some planning.
Right.
But a lot of people don't. And I've just had to let go with like, you know what? My job is to design beautiful running apparel. It's not necessarily to educate every person about what our business is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so like, I think you have to swallow your pride and just be like, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for wishing us luck. I'm sure we need it. Like, we still need the luck, of course, but it's like some people will see it and they'll know that there's a lot going on here and it's really special and valuable. Some people will say like, oh my gosh, this is overpriced. And it's like, they don't, I could tell them, no, actually it's not overpriced. And we haven't raised our prices in 3 years, even though inflation has gone through the roof and I'm paying more.
Yeah.
I could spend my energy like educating people about their wrong ideas, but I've just decided not to.
Yeah.
Right.
No, there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not going to be for everyone, but luckily, we'll have our customers that come and keep choosing us. So, and I did want to ask one more, I think, before we wrap up. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. This one's like for any college students listening, what would be your biggest piece of advice for college students and hopeful entrepreneurs as they, try to start a business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think an entrepreneur temperament is a person who's really focused and really motivated on your own and kind of individualistic. And I really want to say that it's a team sport. You really need other people's support.
Yeah.
You need to get used to saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody in your life, a friend or somebody is offering to help you, it maybe isn't how you want to be helped. Try to figure out how you can let them help you. Try to plug them in. Every person has gifts. Every person has something that's intuitive to them that's hard for other people. That's going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there are people who offer to help you, to help out, and maybe you don't need them in a certain way, but try to figure out how they can help you because you're going to need the help. I'm not sure that there's a small business out there that, I mean, at some point there's some slave labor involved. And what I mean by slave labor is like there's someone there who's just giving their time.
Yeah.
Who's just giving their time to you. And it might be that you are going to like the Aurora Chamber of Commerce small business classes that are free. Somebody there is giving their time to teach the class or whatever. Like, take advantage of the free resources, and it could be the people in your life, could be babysitting, it could be somebody who is in your life and they are everybody's friend. They get so excited about things. They've never done sales, and you go, you know what? You would be a good salesperson for me.
Yeah.
Can you do this for me? And to just see the potential, because the resources that you need to start a small business are like manifold, and it's just going to take different people. I would say another thing is, I love fashion, and it would be like so sick to like design some wild clothes, that are like runway ready. And it would be awesome to be doing that in, I don't know, in a big city like Paris, London, New York City. That's what I grew up daydreaming about.
Mm.
But I'm in Colorado. And so how do I adapt that passion and that desire
Yeah.
to the people around me? Like, what are they looking for? Like, can I distill that down into something that's distinctly Colorado culture? Like, yeah, I can. And yeah, people are gonna love it, and people are gonna find it joyful, and it's gonna be worth their time and their money, and I'm gonna make a quality product. But I need to adjust my expectations and my dreams a little bit. And that's been good for me to do that. So
Yeah. I have one last question before we wrap up. Yeah. It's very basic, just a fun one. You have to choose a time in the day to run, either really early in the morning or late at night after you've gotten home from work. What's your choice?
Oh, definitely. I'm a morning runner.
Okay.
I think you want to roll out of bed and not think about it too hard before you start running.
Yeah, before you start doubting why you're outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, is there anything that you have that you want to like shout out? Instagram, website, anything that you want are like, we're not super big. We have like 29 subscribers. But anything that you want people to find you?
You can find me at vanderjacket.com. That's our website. At Vander Jacket is our Instagram handle, and that's definitely more immediate.
Yeah.
I would say if you're traveling over the holidays, look for our Vander Jacket display in the Southwest art exhibit. like the Southwest Terminal has an art exhibit with art cases, and Vander
Ooh.
Jacket's there. So if you're traveling, you can see some of our stuff there too. So
Is that
yeah.
something you guys do every like Christmas or?
No, that was just an ask.
Wow.
The curator of the Denver International Airport bought a jacket at a pop-up, and
Wow.
she's doing a show on like Colorado makers that use like raw, like salvaged goods.
Yeah.
And so she called us up, and so we've been at DIA for 3/4 of a year. So that's been awesome.
That's awesome.
So the exhibit runs through December, I think.
Okay. Oh, so this is the one. It's like a bomber type jacket, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I made a Southwest Airlines bomber jacket
Hmm.
out of Southwest Airlines airplane seat.
Oh.
That's
Southwest
so
Airlines
cool.
sent me some leather that was from a plane, and I made that. But we had like a whole collection at Denver International, and we told people like, you can buy what's on display. Everything's sold.
Wow.
And we said like, you'll have to be patient, like the exhibit ends in October and we'll ship you your stuff.
Yeah.
And then the curator was like, we want to extend this exhibit till December. And I was like, well, shoot, I have customers who want their jacket
Yeah.
during sweater weather. And so we took all the jackets and sent them to our customers, and then like replenished the display at DIA because they wanted to go longer. So we have some new stuff in there.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a phenomenal place to start the
Oh,
year.
yeah.
You've been in DIA for almost a year. That's awesome. Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. We really enjoyed the conversation. You have a lot of great things to add to the conversation. And for all of our listeners, stay tuned. We have our final episode of the calendar year coming in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a little bit more different. It's going to be, it's maybe a little more unscripted, a little more fun, just with our like entire members, a little less educational. We are here to educate the next generation of entrepreneurs, but we have to have some fun as well.
Yes.
I love interviewing guests. So that this is this is like the worst wording I could put this in. I've had a blast talking with you, Sarah. But yeah, so you'll not want to miss that. But besides that, thanks for listening. And then yeah, Sarah, again, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next time on the Cash Flow Project.
Thanks so much.